Welcome to the NDIS Providers Growth Podcast. I'm here with Stu Paull today. If you don't know Stu Paull, he's one of the most networked, most linked guys in all the NDIS. Stu, what's something that you're looking forward to today, hanging out together?
Well, look, thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to come on the podcast and talk to your listeners and viewers. Just to just have a bit of a chin wag that we normally do, outside of different networking events. And I'd really sort of like to talk about potential opportunities that there are things that are being missed and things that could be really easily picked up by providers without a lot of, and definitely without a lot of spend, but also without much really effort. It just comes down to being the right kind of person.
Okay, well, let's have a look at this. Let's imagine if today Stu Paull and Michael Clark were going to invent a new NDIS provider business. Let's imagine that someone had waved a magic wand. We're suddenly registered. We don't have to go through that trial and trauma. And we're now providing, okay? What would be the ways that you and I would together market if, let's imagine we had a goal of going from 0 participants to 200 in 6 months? What would we do? What would be the first things that you would be doing?
Yeah, the first thing I'd be doing is once we've established our website, make sure we've got a solid website. I guess we could find some other consultant that can help us with that. Once we've done that, we'll then go out, we'll start making sure that we've got our IP, but then going to essentially great networking events, ways in which we can be connecting with the rest of the network out there, those providers of quality and substance in ways that are meaningful. Look, whilst I would potentially have a Facebook and Meta, and I would have that presence, it would not be my go-to marketing tool. It would be one arrow in the quiver, not the only arrow that I would use. I think as well with the events, I'm not going to name drop the businesses that run those events, but there are certain speed dating network events that are out there where providers will pay to have a space and that we as attendees would go and meet with them. And I would start by being an attendee, get to know who's who in the zoo and who I can vibe with. And then once we do that, and I think that one of the things that gets left behind is you'll get providers that go to those events, they'll get the card, and they'll think that that card means they're going to get a dozen referrals. No, buddy, that's not how it works. What you've then got to do is start building from there. That's only day one. That's like trying to win a 100-meter race by taking 2 steps and saying, I'm done. I've just replicated this step 50 times. You just didn't see it. No, you've got to put the hard yards in. So what I would do to go from 0 to 200 in 6 months, I'd be getting as many cards and as many follow-up one-to-ones as I possibly could with as many of those providers that I got the vibe that I could work with.
I love it. Okay, that makes sense. And then if we go back to your first step one, you said you'd have a website. Now, the thing is, you can't just have a website if you don't know what you're selling. So for the sake of, you and I, let's imagine we're going to be, what's something interesting? Let's imagine, what could we be selling?
Well, we're definitely not doing the standard sort of service providers. I think if we were going to be doing it, I say we start looking at things like support coordination, but not support coordination on its own. Support coordination with a focus on capacity building, building up the skills of participants, not just being a coordinator. Things that can be accompanied in that one service fee.
I love it. Let's niche down even harder. Okay, so we're support coordinators in this, imaginary thing. For capacity building, let's specialize in people with high levels of anxiety. So, I mean, that's not an NDIS thing, but it is a niche, right? So we become known as the support coordinators for people with high levels of anxiety. Then that means that the first thing we do is on our website, put in a heap of advice for people about how to choose a support coordinator when you have anxiety. And then you said go to some networking events. So what would you say to someone who, let's imagine that they want to know what you do, and this is what we do. How would you describe that to someone at a networking event? So you're not coming across as selfish, but you are being clear.
Yeah, it would really be just about it, trying to explore what's out there first, rather than trying to sell what I'm doing, is to try and see what's actually coming back to me first, seeing what people are actually looking for and seeing where the gaps are, and then finding that those gaps might be that they've then found, oh, we've got a support coordinator, but I've never met them before. Okay, great. So then we would focus on going with how we present face-to-face. We go and meet people, not just doing virtually. Ironically, that we're doing a virtual podcast. But in the sense of going out and meeting people, finding the gaps, just listen twice as much before we speak. And it's something that I think also gets lost in translation at these networking events. We feel the need to sell our services first and then be a person later. And unfortunately, I think it's a byproduct of that sort of event, that 5 minute, you've got 5 minutes to structure it out. But it then comes down to you've got to be able to listen to what people need first and let the conversation flow. I try to sort of lead it towards around the psychosocial recovery, that sort of space, the psychosocial health, mental health, and just to sort of talk to them about where their head is at and where their participants are at, and sort of working on that. That would be the way I'd say, listen first, speak later.
That's quality advice. And then if you and I were at those sort of events and we were trying to get to know people, like you're saying, I see how relational you are, and this is just you in your area of strength. And for me, I'm probably a bit less relational. I'm more, okay, what is there that we can do to help each other? So at that point, I might be asking someone like, what do you need? Like, who do you need me to connect you to? Because even if you only had a network of 20 people you could connect someone to, there's got to be someone. And that's a way that you can help someone even when you don't have much to give. You can at least connect them to someone by email. And then how would you follow up after events like that? Okay, say you've met 50 people. You've put the time in for 50 people. How would you then go about nurturing that so that you've actually built a community, not just a bunch of business cards?
First thing I'm telling you, the first thing I'm not going to do, I'm not going to send a mail merge email that just spams my services and has a referral link at the bottom. I'm not going to do that because that's what every other provider does. And you know what I do when I get that email? Big old delete button, massive delete button. It is Gonskis, because that tells me that you don't value your connection with me. That tells me that I'm just another card to you. What I've typically tried to do when I'm going out and meeting people, I will either give them a call or I will send a personalized email, an email that is to them. It's not something that I'm sending to everyone. It's to them. And it to maybe even talk about something, to call back to some of the things that we talked about when I got to know them, to show that I actually was listening. I'm actually taking the time to get to know you and not just spamming as many email addresses as I can. It's back to the idea of spray and pray, which is just that shoot for the wall and hope that sort of something sticks. That's that low percentage play. I would rather send 25 emails instead of 100. I would rather send 25 quality emails to 25 people that I thought were good people than to 100 email addresses of junk, to know that no one's going to read it. No one's going to care. But if I show the time that I'm investing my time and my energy in getting to know you, and I'm reflecting that in the email, because the email actually says, it talks about what we talked about. It's about being real and taking that step of actually being a human being. And I think that gets lost a lot of the time. It's just because it's efficiency. You can't make connections with a mail merge out of Excel. You just can't.
I love it. Okay. And then let's imagine we went and did that, okay, for your and my imaginary support coordination business targeting only people who have anxiety, okay? So you and I would very quickly learn which supports are best, who's our best psychosocial coaches, who's our best whatever, but not just that, who's the best home care who understands anxiety, like those sort of things. And all we talk about is getting you what you need so that you can be relaxed about doing it. Facebook or LinkedIn?
Absolutely LinkedIn, there's no question.
Okay, obviously. Now tell us why, because not everyone here is even on LinkedIn.
It's the same, because Facebook is Facebook is very much like the old school bazaar, where you've got every merchant, you're banging on the table, screaming at the top of their lungs, come and try our wares, come and try our wares. And everyone's making the same sound, and it just blends in. You lose that individuality. LinkedIn, as much as it is not a place to find participants directly, it is a place to forge an ongoing connection. And I think that sometimes when new providers start out, they sort of want to go, oh, I need to get participants, therefore I'm going to seek out participants. Finding a participant, and I'll bring it back to a sales perspective because that makes it a bit more relevant for business. Finding a participant is one sale, is one person. That person might recommend you to a few of their friends. Great. One connection is an ongoing stream of connection. That support coordinator, that particular provider, that home care provider is an ongoing connection that lasts much longer than just one participant. It lasts for hundreds. It lasts for thousands. It lasts for however many it's going to be. because it shows that we have similar values and similar ethics as a provider of service. And LinkedIn allows us to have that connection without the noise. And yes, there are going to be providers on LinkedIn that will say, come and refer to us, or here are services. There's also going to be those that might educate via podcasts. There are going to be those that are demonstrating what their points of difference are through real examples. It's much more conducive to a positive relationship. It's a better place for that kind of relationship to be built. So it's either you can teach a man to fish or you can just feed him a fish.
It
Or
makes
reverse that,
sense.
you could give a man a fish, or yeah, absolutely. It's that mentality of what is valuable to you. Is it that you just want one, or is it that you want an ongoing connection?
That's remarkable. There is a provider out there who I have sent literally 50 participants to, 50 that stuck. Who knows how many didn't stick, because I just believe in them at that level. And imagine if those guys had spent time chasing one participant instead of helping me understand what they do. Like, that would be a game changer. I guess the other thing is when you look at Facebook versus LinkedIn, Facebook, you feel like you're interrupting a conversation you weren't invited to. No one really goes there because they want to be sold to. Whereas LinkedIn, you're connecting with other people. Like, I know you partly through LinkedIn. That's how I actually found out more about what you do a couple of months ago. And it's like the conversation around work is welcomed because we're only there to talk about work, you know? And then let's imagine we get to our, say, 200 providers in 6 months, right? Let's imagine that's our goal. Now, good luck with that in 2025. That's all I'm going to say. Good luck. It's not 2023. Okay? But let's imagine if we do that. What do we do then? Because at that point, we stop thinking about connecting with individuals, and you do start thinking at that larger scale of one individual is not going to move the needle. Even 50 referrals isn't going to move the needle. What would you be doing at that point, Stu?
It's then me looking at what am I giving back to the network instead of just trying to take from it. And so this is something that I am doing at this point now. So what I'm doing at this point is looking for ways in which I can give back to the network, whether it be through education, collaboration, and connection between providers on a larger scale. And so I'm doing my own podcast, and I'm happy to talk about it a bit later on as well. But I also do run my own networking events, and every event that I do is a collaboration with other providers. I don't do things just on my own. I share the spotlight because they're people that I believe in, and that forges that deeper connection, not just with myself and those providers that are on stage with me, but also with every single one that's in the audience, because those people that are there are getting a chance to actually engage with not just myself, but with other people like me. So I'm then not just introducing them to myself, I'm introducing them to a group and then expanding that group tenfold by on itself. So what I would be doing then is, what am I giving back? Because if I'm just going to take, eventually I'm going to be seen as nothing but someone who's just going to take, and I'm not contributing anything back. Whereas if my main focus is on what am I giving, it then shows that I actually am here and I am genuine. I'm not being insincere with you. I'm not being someone who is leading you on because I actually am giving first. I have no intention of just tweaking. If you want to take, you give to me, that's fine. But that's where that really comes from, a deeper connection. It's not something that happens, just expecting a sale.
That makes sense. And I love what you're talking about people have helped you and then you helping others. And Stu, when I first met you, I met you because you were helping someone. And what went through my head, like just being real, if I could be that real, is this guy's either really helpful or he's got an angle. That's what went through my head, okay? Not proud of it, but that's what went through my head. But then when I heard about you helping a second person, and then when I sent you someone and you helped them, I'm like, oh my goodness, I will send every man his dog to Stuart if he's able to help them. And I just appreciate what you do. But it does take a while for people to evaluate, is this guy for real? Because they're used to being used. They're used, like, networking is effectively, if done the way 95% of people do it, just using people to get your own sales. And it's like, there's a difference between that and actually being a contribution to others. You can be a contribution when you're not living out of a desperate place of, I must make a sale or I lose my job. And you've obviously got through that point where you can start just being generous because work comes to you. But I love what you're saying, and I think we need more of it in the NDIS. Stuart, I love as well the fact that you've got a podcast as well. What do people learn on your podcast? What's it called? How they find it? And what do they learn on it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so my podcast is called NDIS TLDR, Too Long Didn't Read. It really is that bite-sized education piece. It's that 5 7 minutes, really short form stuff. The best way to describe it is it's the perfect podcast to listen on your commute to work when you work from home. So
Okay,
works like that.
I love it.
And so that one's going to become it'll be by the time this is released, it should be released as well. It'll be on YouTube, Spotify. I believe we're also going to be on some other platforms. But yeah, just connect with me on LinkedIn and you might be able to see where it's being published. That way you'll be able to see the complete list. So yeah, check me out on LinkedIn, Stu Paull, or you can connect with me via email. My email address is spaul, SPAU. Feel free to reach out. More than happy to sort of work through that with you.
Love your work. And if you're driving your car and you don't have any way of remembering that, just remember Michael from Athletic Koala. Send me an email and say, that guy you interviewed who talked about helping people. And I'll put you in touch. No hassle at all. Well, Stu, I love what you do. I love what you stand for. And thank you so much for helping all the people I've sent you so far. And for all the people who I know I'll keep sending you. Okay? You have a good one and I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate the opportunity to come on today.
Good on you.